We're good. Welcome to Locked On MLB. We're going to be going through game one of the ALCS in Toronto. Every game, every night. I'm your Sunday night host, Brian McKeon, alongside my partner and Locked On Cardinals host, JD Haffron.
When that final out is made, you know it's time for Locked On MLB Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. Prepare to experience game day reactions like never before. Only on Locked On MLB Game Night. Your team every day.
And welcome to Locked On MLB Game Night. I'm your host, Brian McKeon, alongside JD Haffron. Before I get to everything, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. So, JD, the ALCS is beginning. The NLCS will begin tomorrow. We'll be discussing a preview of that first, but we need to get to this Blue Jays-Mariners game north of the border of where both we live, of course. Mariners win this game 3-1, and I want to say both of us are on lockstep here. A peculiar approach that the Blue Jays took to this game. No?
It was bizarre. It wouldn't have been the way me and you thought things were going to go, or how Toronto was going to attack the Seattle Mariners pitching staff in this one. And if you listen to anything with the pregame show with A-Rod and David, they were the same way. They were like, I'm kind of like, I really don't know why they did what they did in this one. It was very, very strange.
Yeah, so the game starts out where you had Kevin Gauthier versus Bryce Miller, and you're thinking after the 15-inning game in Game 5 of the ALDS that the Seattle Mariners were probably pretty gassed in their pitching department. They weren't going to have a lot of availability with their bullpen, coupled on the fact that Game 2, which is tomorrow for them, is going to also be a game where they need to have kind of pitchers reserved too. So they didn't have a lot of leeway in this game to be using a lot of pitchers. So you'd think the Blue Jays would go into this game trying to make Bryce Miller just throw a ton of pitches and get into that bullpen that's got to be gassed. This, to me, before this game started, felt like one of those series going into where if you're a Mariners fan, you're like, all right, just get us back to Seattle 1-1 and I'm happy. Because you just thought Game 1 was an absolute loss, save everyone for Game 2 and get through it. Bryce Miller goes 6 innings, 1 earned, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts. They took him out after 76 pitches, which we'll get to in a second. But JD, George Springer hits the game. It's the leadoff home run on the first pitch of the game. 27 pitches are thrown in the first inning. After that, not one singular hit was given up by the Seattle Mariners pitching staff. And Bryce Miller goes 6 innings, only gives up 76 pitches the rest of the way. So he didn't really, his economy on pitches was great. The Blue Jays went out there hacking up the whole park. And even if that was the game plan, to be just get him early, attack him early, how do you not adjust after 2 or 3 innings of just not being able to touch the guy? I don't understand how there were no adjustments or anything to Toronto Blue Jays. This was just a weird game to me from the Blue Jays.
Yeah, me and you were in agreement on this, where we were texting each other about it, where it's like, why are they not trying to work counts and be all season long? That's what Toronto did to you. You know, that's how they beat their opponents. They wore them down, long at bats, fouling pitches off over and over and over. First inning, outside of that first pitch, obviously, Springer took over the wall, but their second hitter, it was Lucas, I believe, that with 12 pitches, something like that. That was like, oh boy, they're in deep doo-doo because the Blue Jays are coming in and they're going to do exactly what we thought they were going to do. Just I wait till 0-2, then foul some pitches off, wear this dude down, and then make Seattle figure it out. Because, as you mentioned, the bullpen's all worn out after 15 innings on Friday. Well, who's left? Who's got any gas left in the tank? I mean, this should have been what I would have thought would have been a cakewalk type of scenario for the Blue Jays in this one, just doing the normal things that they did during the regular season. It just blew my mind that they would come out and just keep hacking 0-1. They were going after it, or even the first pitch of the at-bats and stuff. And I don't know why. I don't know what it is about Miller that made them want to do that approach. So what if he gets ahead of you? The point is just get him out of the game by, say, the 4th inning.
Because you wanted to get to that bullpen.
Yeah.
And even if that's your strategy, and this to me feels like an analytical approach where the strategy might be to attack Miller early in the zone, and I get that. And this is where the analytics tend to get me a little bit off when it comes to baseball. Is I'm all for developing a scouting report where, hey, he's not good early in the zone. We have to attack him early in the zone. I understand all of that, but you have to also have a little bit of a feel for the game. And having a feel for the game and that head knowledge that numbers aren't going to tell you is, hey, the numbers aren't going to tell you that the Mariners had to throw basically every pitcher on their roster in the last game, other than Brian Wu, who made the ALCS roster, to be able to get through that last game of that series. Worth it to advance, but you can't let the Mariners get game one here. They have a chance, seriously, to go with game two back to Seattle. Crazy stuff. I want to not take everything away from Seattle, and we'll talk about their impressive win in a second. But first, let's hear from Braden from Locked On Blue Jays about Toronto's game one loss, because just couldn't happen for the Blue Jays in front of a crazy, crazy sold-out crowd in Toronto.
Not a good game. Not a good game. I mean, it is one game. It's not the end of the world. The problem is you want to win with your best guy on the mound, and you can't get that done. And it all starts well for the Blue Jays. First pitch, first swing, George Springer bomb. Couldn't ask for the game to start any better. But it all takes a turn for the worst. I mean, the Blue Jays had 2 hits in this ballgame. I mean, you can't win hitting 2 baseballs. One good thing to take away is that there were hard hit balls. Yes, they were right at guys. It didn't go your way for sure. But does the Seattle offense look like it's a killer right now? Not really. So if the Blue Jays bring the bats from the Yankees series, well, they might be okay. Trey Savage, game 2, let's go. We ride or die with this guy. It's going to be strikeout city. Bet the over, ladies and gentlemen, on the strikeouts.
Now, I do want to give a little bit of caution to people that are listening that are Blue Jays fans here. Ride or die with Trey Savage. I know he gave you an impressive performance in the ALC and the ALDS. I'm not taking that away from him. We still should acknowledge, JD, this is like his 6th career major league start. Like they're and the more and more film that's out there on Savage is the more and more film that other teams get to watch on him, learning how to scout him a little bit. So I'm not taking anything away from the kid and saying that it won't be a dominant performance, but I just think you got to be a little bit cautious here, because that bad start could be coming. It's very rare that you see guys that are, rookies in the postseason. You're sometimes a little bit of afraid of. This is a guy that's in his first month of major league experience. So you got to be a little careful. This is their number 2 starter right now for Toronto. That's not a ton of depth compared to what the Mariners can throw out there.
Yeah, I agree. And I talked about this a little bit with people, mentioning, the Boston and Yankees series, where I was like, isn't this wild that like it comes down to a couple rookies who have barely been up with it, when it was Schlittler and it was early at the end of that, the opening wild card series. I'm like, isn't it crazy that it comes down to these 2 kids that, don't have the experience, and everybody's, hey, these huge franchises, Boston, New York, and it's all riding on these kids' arms and not the huge payroll guys that these franchises are used to paying for to get them to that spot in the first place. So I mean, and you're right. This is a moment. I mean, this guy has come up. I think he went through all like 3 levels of baseball this year. Like it wasn't like he was just at AAA all year and was just on the cusp of making no, he was down and now he's like their savior to just break even coming in these first 2 games in Toronto. So a lot of pressure on a rookie like Trey Savage. Yeah, like you said, he was great that first time around, and he had a couple of good starts at the end of the season. But this is a whole different ballgame when you get to the ALCS, and now you're 4 wins away from making it to the World Series that you haven't done in forever. So a lot of pressure. So to say we ride or die with him. Hey, I'm glad he's got confidence in him, but I would err on the side of caution with this one.
It's a tough spot to be in for the kid, especially too coupling in. You're trying to preserve that. You're trying to not go back to Seattle down 2-0. You go back to Seattle down 2-0, that's danger city right there, because that crowd's going to be ready to pounce on whenever the Blue Jays throw at them. So you got to be careful with this game. Again, this just, to me, it feels like if you're the Blue Jays, it's the game that you couldn't lose. It's the game you had to have. It just, with everything against Seattle in this game, it's one of those going in where if you're a Blue Jays fan, it's like, how could we drop that one? You have to get that one. Game 2 was the game that was supposed to be a little more even, but game 1, everything was against Seattle in this spot. It kind of would give me a little confidence on the Seattle side of things, because with your backs against the wall in game one, where it feels like almost a throwaway game if you're Seattle, to be able to come out there, stick through the game, pitch as effectively as you did, get the timely hits. Remember, especially too late in this game, the De Suarez hit was about I don't know, a fingernail away from being a home run at that point too. So I mean, the Mariners did hit the ball hard in this game too, and it's a lot better than what the Blue Jays were able to do. I do want to hear before we move on from Ty Dane Gonzalez of Locked On Mariners on the importance of this Seattle win.
The Mariners steal game one of the ALCS. This is Ty Dane Gonzalez, host of the Locked On Mariners podcast here. Mariners beat the Blue Jays 3-1 here at the Rogers Center in game one of the ALCS. Absolutely steal this one with Bryce Miller facing Kevin Gausman. I think playoff Bryce Miller might be a thing here, folks. He's had a rough season, obviously marred by the forearm injury that he has dealt with all year long. Pitched very well in Detroit, pitched very well tonight, despite things getting off to a terrible start. First pitch of the game gives up a solo home run to George Springer. Struggled to put guys away early on in this one, but after that really settled in, and eventually the Mariners just kept chipping away at Kevin Gausman. John Schneider once again making a questionable decision to take out Gausman in the playoffs against the Mariners, to flip a Mariners switch hitter to his dominant side. This time Jorge Polanco, last time it was Carlos Santana. Polanco makes Schneider pay for that decision to give the Mariners the lead. And the M's hold on to it. And the M's are now 3 wins away from the World Series. How about that? We'll talk to you after game 2 on the Locked On Mariners podcast. See you then. Peace.
The clutchness of Polanco, the bullpen decisions that are curious, and we'll preview game 2 of this series, which is absolutely massive, and it'll happen on Monday night on the other side. This show is brought to you guys by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you guys don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. Now, I love using FanDuel. It gives me so many ways to play. I've built a lot of parlays. I've tried player props and even followed the live lines during the game. And it makes watching football so much more exciting. That's when you have something riding on the action. It's the perfect experience. And whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into the stats, FanDuel can make the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. So, JD, game 2, we'll preview that in a second, but I do want to discuss first the bullpen decisions. Both of these starters go 76 pitches in this game. I do find this a little curious because you wouldn't see this happen in the regular season. They would have let these guys go at least 90 pitches and figured things out, barring injury concerns and stuff like that. What do you think is it's not like either of these teams have elite bullpens. What do you think is the rush to get into a mediocre bullpen in a playoff game? Because it's not just Seattle, it's not just Toronto. All of Major League Baseball does this, and I just don't quite understand the motive.
Yeah, it's strange how the matchups, it feels like that they it's almost like they don't trust their starters. You know, they don't believe in them enough to get through like 2 more hitters, and it feels like they'd rather make a move and be wrong about that than leave a guy in too long and have the burden fall on his shoulders, and that's where things go wrong. So instead of taking a chance, and I come from the old school days where I like watching these guys throw 7, 8, sometimes go like, if a guy's on a heater, man, let him roll, let him keep going. Yeah. There's really no point in pulling him. And even Seattle in this one, they talked to Miller after the game, and he was like, I was ready to go 100 pitches in this one if they wanted me to. They didn't need me to. They took me out after that amount of time. But, the same thing on Toronto's side where it's not like Gausman was getting pounded by any means. It wasn't like Seattle was, lacing him. Yeah, there was a couple of hits, and you mentioned the Suarez one, but he was pitching pretty well. And again, is whoever you're bringing in that much better than what the guy is that you got on the mound already? Is the matchup that good? If so, I guess I understand why you make the move, but I'm one of those guys that this has been my dude. Gausman's your guy. and you ride with him. Like you use the phrase that they said earlier with ride or die. I'm kind of riding with my starters a little longer in this one, just in case you get later on in this series where the bullpen becomes even that much more important.
I'll give a little bit of pushback on it because of what Ty said during his update there from us from Rogers Center too, which is actually pretty cool that he was there traveling across country. But Bryce Miller dealing with the forearm injuries the entire year, almost the 80 pitches, and you have the lead. So I kind of do get the scenario there of pulling him when you do, if you really trust your bullpen, especially with the lead. It's a lot less of a risk when you have the lead already intact as opposed to bringing it in when you're down because you want to keep it where it's at. The Gausman thing I understand less. Only because, like you said, he's your ace. He's your horse throughout the year. I trust Kevin Gausman, who you gave a massive contract to. You trusted a lot. Comes over here, turns into an ace in Toronto. I'm sorry, JD. You got to trust Gausman in that spot to get you through that and get you to a spot where it is a one-run game going into the 8th inning or something where he can provide that for you. If he's got runners on base, something I understand pulling him out. Pulling him out where you did with 76 pitches, no starter's happy with that, and I can't think any Blue Jays fan is really happy about that because even in the 9th inning, I know the Blue Jays weren't hitting anything, but a 2-1 game feels a lot different than a 3-1 game. You put a runner on base in a 2-1 game, it's like, all right, let's go here. The crowd starts getting involved. It's a different feeling than a 3-1 game. That the bullpen comes in, gives up the insurance run, and it can feel a lot different. I just don't understand going after it that way. Pulling these guys so early. It just confuses me, and it's,
and this side of it too is like when you're managing in, say, like in the wild card series where it's only you lose 2 games and it's over. You manage differently in those because you can't risk going too long with somebody, where in a game where it's 7-game series you can stretch these guys out a little bit more because you expect this is probably going to go 5, 6, maybe even 7 games. These bullpen arms, you're going to need them later on, and you don't want to be turning the ball over to these guys right away. It also gives the other offense a chance to see these guys more when maybe they haven't seen them as much during the regular season, and now they're going to get a chance to see them. Now you might see these guys like Little and stuff who come in, that they might see these guys 3, maybe even 4 times in this series now, which, as we all know, will make it a lot easier for the offense to be ready for what they offer you.
Well, and that's why I find it weird where the analytics don't play in with these teams, because it shows historically over time, especially in these series, the more that these teams see bullpen arms, the better they start hitting off of them. And then you see blown leads in the 6th, 7th inning because this is the 4th or 5th time they've seen the same guy already.
That's why they only throw 1 inning usually, because they don't want.
And it's historically proven. It's historically proven that that's accurate. So why all of a sudden in the postseason we're ready to let a team see a guy 5 times in a row for 7 straight days? It doesn't make any sense. But again, here we are, analytical era of baseball. This is the way that we handle things. Game 2. Now, this becomes a very important game for Toronto. I'm not going to call it a must-win yet in the series, but hey, going back to Seattle down 2-0 is not a spot that you want to find yourself in if you're Toronto, especially with how hungry that crowd is following that Game 5. It'll be Logan Gilbert. He's 1-0 with a 1.13 ERA in the postseason. Had 9 strikeouts in that start. Versus Trey Savage, 1-0, 11 strikeouts, no runs given up. I would give a little caution, too, to the Blue Jays fans. While Savage is great, they don't trust him to go very deep into games. And I don't know if it's he hasn't built himself up necessarily to that point yet or what it is. But if you remember in the Yankee game, he only had like 75 pitches coming out in that game. He could have went longer. So if they're not going to trust him long, you're expecting a lot of outs out of your bullpen there. That could be a cause for concern. Gilbert went six innings in that Detroit game in Game 3, gave Seattle that 2-1 lead. And then he came in the 15-inning game actually on Friday. Now, I wouldn't be concerned that he pitched in that game because that's more of like a bullpen that he would normally throw on his day off. So I think it's a normal, probably routine kind of thing for him. Again, I would find some concern for you, Savage here, right, JD? Just because we're still talking 5 career major league starts, including that 1 playoff start. Was it great? Yes. But Seattle is a different team than the Yankees. Yankees are a very free-swinging team, likes to try and hit home runs. Seattle's a different kind of team. They take pitches. They wait on exactly what the Blue Jays should have done in Game 1. Seattle did in Game 1. Took a lot of pitches, made guys work. I expect the same kind of game plan out of Seattle. I think they're going to want the moment to sink in with Savage, and they're going to want him to feel the gravity of what's going on, make him a little more nervous, especially that crowd's going to be on pins and needles in Toronto.
Yeah, I agree with you. If I'm Seattle, I'm absolutely making this kid work as much as I can. And that's one of the things in that game against the Yankees, as you mentioned, the free swing, a lot of chasing going on in that one. Maybe trying do a little too much against a rookie in a big situation. So Seattle up 1-0 now. I mean, they have the luxury of being able to just kind of sit back and kind of chill, because even if the Blue Jays, somehow the offense gets going again, which I would expect it to. They've done it all year, and to have them go back-to-back games and struggle offensively the way they did in this one, I wouldn't expect that. But even if the Blue Jays get out to a 4-5-0 lead, something like that, Seattle still, they got a game in hand now. They feel they're all right. So there's really no rush.
This is why we talk about how important the game one win is.
Keep working that rookie and get back to their bullpen again and make them, make that move early on, 3-4 inning already, because of the fact that if you get his pitch count up, and that way you get to see these guys again, and you kind of, even if you lose, it's kind of works to the benefit of the Mariners.
Well, that's the thing. So after Game 5 with the Mariners series, I'm sure you could ask any Mariners fan, including their GM, manager, whoever. The Mariners would have absolutely signed for 1-1 going back to Seattle in the ALCS, 1,000%. So you kind of are playing with a little bit of house money here going into Game 2. And I would say this too. The Yankees get blown out in that Game 1 of the ALDS, and you don't want to head back in a 5-game series going back to the Bronx down 2-0. Obviously, we saw what happened. It can lead to that more. So there was more of an urgency factor for the Yankees. They wanted to try and jump the kid early. In his first postseason game, they thought he was going to try and throw a lot of strikes, and they tried to jump him. Obviously, it didn't work. Like you said, Seattle has the luxury of not needing to do that. Seattle's got the 1-0 lead, and they're not trying to lose Game 2, obviously, but they have their ace on the mound in Logan Gilbert. They've got the 1-0 lead in the series. They're heading back to Seattle at bare minimum at 1-1. So they don't need to try and jump Savage in this game. Savage is more of the guy with the urgency that needs to pitch really well in this game. So I think Seattle's going to come into this game, let the gravity sit in for this kid. The Yankees gave him way too much time to settle into that game. By striking out so much and making so many quick outs, he just got to settle in, and it didn't even feel like a playoff game to him. Let the gravity of the moment sink in for this young kid who was pitching an A-ball earlier in the year. Let it sink in. Let him feel the pressure of 60,000 people on pins and needles hoping they can tie this series. If you start getting that sinker starts to hang in the zone a little more, not drop to the floor. That fastball starts to sit in that zone a little more. That becomes a major problem. So I think that's got to be the strategy for Seattle. I think they have a little bit of an advantage going into the game because of that reason.
Yeah, I agree.
JD, on the other side, the National League Championship Series is going to start off tomorrow night as well. Great pitching matchup, great series heading ahead. And Dodgers are a major favorite. I don't know if that's the right call, though. We'll discuss it all on the other side. You know what's crazy is most people can't name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth to begin with. And whether it's your 401ks, properties, or investments, when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. And that's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that helps bring your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. And if you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch could be for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of all of your money without ever having to touch a spreadsheet. Maximizing investments, creating your savings rate, easily reviewing your finances with your partner and your financial advisor, keeping a clear view of your financial health week to week and long term. It's got everything available. Don't let this financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKED on MLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKED on MLB. So JD, Dodgers at the Brewers. It should be a really fun series. I'm going to cover this series, obviously, the way I should, but I'm kind of rooting for the Brewers here. I just think the Brewers are a franchise that kind of deserves this. Am I wrong? I mean, Dodgers fans have seen it. Don't get me wrong.
I don't think you're wrong. I mean, being an NL Central guy, I'm going to pull for the Brewers as well. Plus, you like seeing the upset a little bit. You know, the Dodgers are favored, reigning champions. They've spent a whole lot of money. Milwaukee doesn't do it that way. They build from within, and it's all about their own farm system and bringing guys up and just making smart decisions. And, so part of me is also rooting for the mid-market or small market, if you want to call them that, the Milwaukee Brewers in this one as well.
So the Brewers had the best record in Major League Baseball. That's why the first 2 games will be held in Milwaukee at their home stadium. They had a 2-0 lead on the NL Central and the NLDS against the Cubs. Cubs won both games at Wrigley in game 3 and 4, but the Brewers came back, won a close game 5 so to advance the NLCS. Brewers are trying to reach the World Series for the first time since 1982, which feels crazy to see. It would be their first World Series championship, which would be pretty cool. And it'd be the first time they reached the World Series as a National League team, which would be also pretty wild to see. Dodgers won their NLDS series against the Phillies in a way that I don't think should have ended. That game, I think that series still should have went on. Crazy ending to that series. Game 4, they won 2-1 in 11 innings on that walk-off throwing error. Dodgers are trying to repeat. It will be the first repeat since the Yankees done it from 98 to 2000. That was a 3-peat, obviously. So we'll see if the Dodgers can get that done. The advantages and disadvantages here. I think it's understated publicly how poor the Dodger bullpen currently is right now. And again, starters galore. They have almost too much depth at starting pitcher. But their bullpen, especially, they got lucky with the way Sasaki has looked at the back end of that bullpen. Other than that, all the money that they spent on these high-priced guys in the offseason, none of it's worked out. Treinen's been terrible throughout the entire season. I'd be a little more scared of that than it seems to be being reported on, JD. It seems like it's an underreported thing how bad that bullpen has been, and I'd be a little nervous if I were a Dodger fan going in with that bullpen, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think you have to tell the Dodgers that their bullpen stunk.
Yeah.
they were one of I think they ended up winning, like having the most come from behind wins because they had to keep overcoming all the disasters that were going on in that bullpen. Granted, a few of them were injury related, but at the same time, you're the Dodgers. You can go do anything you want, it seems like. So, and that's why I feel like this whole piggybacking starters thing really kind of started with the Dodgers this year, where they're like, we have 7-8 guys that are actually starters that are better than anybody we got in this bullpen right now. So we're just going to let them, piggyback off each other and eat up some innings. So I would assume they go the same way for it in the championship series here. And as you mentioned, Sasaki has been way better as a closer so far here in the postseason compared to how he was as a starter this year. Again, injuries ruined his season as far as being a part of that rotation. But yeah, that is certainly the one weakness. If there is one that just stands out like a sore thumb, it is that Dodgers bullpen, because the Brewers side of things, not a lot of weaknesses, not a lot of oh my gosh, they're amazing at this, but they don't have a lot of weaknesses either.
No. So one of their strengths too, analytically, the Brewers just seem to be advantage over everybody. They just know when to get things done, where to put guys in the lineup. And they also, they play the game within the game really well. Particularly this, people don't look at this as meaning a lot, but I kind of do. Haven't announced a starter yet. And Dodgers came out, said it's Blake Snell that's starting in game 1, which is totally fine. I get it, And again, the Dodgers give you a lot to prepare for, right? Because you have Snell, you're going to have Yamamoto, you're going to have Glasnow going. There's plenty of different ways to approach the Dodgers in this series. Here's the thing, though. If you're LA, the Brewers are up for doing whatever when it comes to this series. They'll go bullpen game. They'll go with one of their starters. They don't care. They'll have Mizorowski come out and give them 3 innings in the middle of this game. They don't care how they approach things. It's little things like this, JD, in a playoff game that matter so much. Like Pat Murphy just not announcing a starter because I don't have to. And I'm not going to let the Dodgers prepare for someone on their flight over to Milwaukee with videotape if they don't know who. You're just giving them a little bit less time of preparation. I don't understand. And this gets at me on my regular show, Locked on Yankees, where it gets at me when I see the Yankees announcing a starter in advance. Why? Why let the other team have even an hour of leg up of video to study when you don't have to do it? When the starter has to be announced tomorrow, then you do it. For now, I don't know why the Brewers are why the Brewers are doing this is genius to me. Why the Dodgers would announce Snell when everyone's available. Pretty much everyone's available, right? Because the game 5 was, everyone's on regular rest. Why would you not make the Brewers potentially have to prepare for Yamamoto or Snell or Glasnow, not knowing who's coming in? I just don't quite understand that, JD.
Yeah, no, and he took it to another level. Pat Murphy did during the series against the Cubs, where he had, I think it was Priester and Ashby warming up before the game next to each other,
Good.
You have no idea what I'm doing, do you?
Do everything to your own advantage. Do everything to your own advantage. I like that.
Yeah, and like in that last game against Chicago, he had his closer start the game just so he could shut down the Cubs for the first inning, and then he went to the Miz. Like, this is Pat Murphy's a smart guy, and he's going to use everything he can to take advantage of the system and the rules, and that's what makes the Brewers a tough team to play against. I see them a lot every year in that NL Central, and they just, like you said, they're just a smart team. Like, when they need to bunt, they bunt. When they need to steal, they steal. When they need to make a great defensive play, they do it. When they need a certain pinch hitter or runner or a defensive substitute, like, they just make the smart move more times than not. And it's how a team like that doesn't have a big payroll, isn't just loaded with superstars, and how they win almost 100 games.
Great organization. Also went 6-0 against the Dodgers this year.
Yeah.
That's a little bit of an understated thing too. So we'll see how that winds up going out too. Against no starter announced for that point. I'd look out for Mookie Betts in this series. He's a guy that I'm really interested in. He's had an unbelievable postseason so far after a pretty lackluster regular season, to be honest. Like, he was a little down. And then another thing, the Dodgers, again, we talked about their bullpen that kind of struggles too. I don't necessarily trust that back end of the Dodger lineup. After it gets to that midpoint in that lineup, their lineup kind of drops off a lot. And the Brewers just have this much more of a well-rounded lineup that I kind of like a little more than what the Dodgers are bringing out. It just, something about this. I know the Dodgers have those depth players. There's the Pajez's, the Kike Hernandez's of the world that always seem to get things done. But the Dodgers seem very top-heavy. And I know this could come back to bite me, because they're this team that spends a lot of money and always seems to find a way to win. It just feels like a smarter, scrappier team like the Brewers could wind up getting them caught. I don't quite agree with the Dodgers being as heavily of a favorite as they are in this series. I know you see the Brewers a lot more than I do. I don't see why the Dodgers are they're minus 220 in most sports books. That seems to me to be a little aggressive for a team that doesn't have the home field advantage and got swept by the Brewers during the regular season.
Yeah, and what's funny is the Brewers are probably loving it. They're like, dude, don't trust us, don't think about us. Let us just be here. Talk about the Dodgers the whole time. We don't need the fanfare. It's fine by us, because we just go out and we play ball each and every day, and we do it to the best of our abilities. We have guys like an Andrew Vaughn, and we've got Sal Frelick, and none of these guys are household names. Like, Bryce Terang is one of my favorite players on the Brewers. Most people outside of the Midwest don't even know who the hell he is. You're going to find out who he is in this series. I guarantee you. He's a special talent.
Caleb Durbin hits 280 all year, and no one knows who the guy is, and he winds up having a stellar year for them. It's just, they're just loaded with talent you never heard of. The only guy most people know on the Brewers is Contreras and Christian Yelich, and yet the whole rest of that roster is just performing day in, day out. I want to ask you before we get out of here, the rest of this series, first, American League Championship Series. What do you see happening in Game 2? What do you see happening in the rest of this series?
I actually, at the beginning of the playoffs, I had Seattle going up against the Dodgers in the World Series.
Okay.
And the only reason I picked them over the Brewers is because of the starting pitching that the Dodgers do possess. I think the Brewers are a much more fun team to watch. It's just as a baseball guy. So I will stick with my guns here, and I think Seattle pulls it off, especially after sneaking away with Game 1 in here. I think Seattle's a very tough place to play. Again, Toronto's going to have to go cross country to get over there to that side, and they look completely off guard in this one. Maybe things get better for them in Game 2, but as we mentioned, they're going to rely on a rookie to make sure that they don't go into a 2-0 hole. They may not come back to Toronto. The series might be over when that happens. So give me Seattle still in this one, because that's where I went. And then I'll take the Dodgers, although my heart wants to root for the Brewers in the NLCS.
I think Seattle's taking it too. I like Seattle in the spot in Game 2. I think it goes back to Seattle 2-0, which is a near death knell for the Toronto Blue Jays. And I'm taking the Brewers. I like the Brewers in that series. I think they're a scrappy team. I think it's finally the year. it's finally the year it gets done in Milwaukee, and I'm rooting for you, Milwaukee. So there's our picks. We'll be with you next Sunday. I'll be back. I don't know if it's with JD or not, but I'll be back to cover where those series are at. Who knows if we'll have a World Series a preview at that point or not, or who the heck knows where this stuff is going. But it has been a tremendous Major League Baseball playoffs, and you've got to stick with game night, where we will be covering it all throughout the rest of the way. So thank you for joining us for this episode. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We hope you'll come back and visit us next time on MLB Game Night. Every game, every night.